Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack complex stories, giving you the insights you need to be, well, truly informed.
That's the goal.
Today, we're diving into Formula One. It's a sport with this inherent paradox, isn't it? This incredible blend of speed, technology, precision.
But always with that razor-thin margin between, triumph and potential tragedy. The stakes are just unbelievably high.
Exactly. And sometimes that cost is just devastating. Our focus today is Jules Bianchi, a name that, for anyone who follows F1, really resonates.
Immense promise, a career on the rise.
Tragically cut short. His accident back in 2014 at the Japanese Grand Prix wasn't just an end to his journey. It was a massive turning point. It fundamentally reshaped F1 safety.
Absolutely. And for this deep dive, we're drawing on a couple of key sources. There's an article, Jules Bianchi's Legacy, F1 Safety Transformed by Tragedy, which gives a really good analysis of the impact.
Right.
And also a detailed transcript from the YouTube channel, Tragic Stories, titled The Gruesome Death of F1 Driver Jules Bianchi. It gives a lot of detail on the events themselves.
So our mission here for you, listening, is to really get a clear picture of Bianchi's story, understand the tragic chain of events of his accident, and maybe most importantly,
see the critical life-saving changes that came about because of it?
yeah, consider this your shortcut to understanding a really pivotal, though heartbreaking moment in F1 history. So let's start at the beginning. Who was Jules Bianchi?
Well, racing wasn't just something he did. It was, you could say, in his blood, a real family legacy.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, his grandfather, Mauro Bianchi, he was a successful driver himself, won the World Sports Car Championship back in 1968.
Wow, okay.
And his granduncle, Lucien Bianchi, he raced in 19 Grand Prix, won Le Mans in 68 too. But tragically, he died during testing the very next year. So motorsport was deeply ingrained.
That's quite a heritage.
Yeah.
So when did Jules start showing that ambition?
Almost immediately, it seems. He was in a kart at just 3 years old. His dad owned a karting track, so, talk about opportunity.
Right place, right time. And talent, obviously.
Clearly. By 2004, he's only 15, and he's already getting second place in the French and European junior karting championships. That's a pretty strong signal.
Definitely. And that progress continued into cars.
Oh, yeah. Turned 18, jumped into French Formula Renault 2.0, and didn't just compete, he won the championship. 5 wins. Just extraordinary for a debut.
Incredible start.
Then he moved up to the Formula 3 Euro Series, signed with Art Grand Prix, which is a top team, won the Masters of F3 in 2008, finished 3rd overall. The rise was, rapid.
And that kind of speed, that kind of success,
Yeah.
it gets noticed, right? Especially by the big teams.
You bet. It caught Ferrari's eye. And, for almost any young driver, Ferrari is the dream. They picked him up in 2009.
For their young driver program.
Yeah, he was actually the first driver they signed to their new Young Driver Academy. The whole point was to find and nurture future Ferrari F1 champions. That says a lot about how highly they rated him.
Huge vote of confidence.
Yeah.
So the path to F1 is looking pretty clear.
It was. In 2012, Ferrari loaned him out as a test and reserve driver for Sauber Force India. Got his F1 race debut at the Australian Grand Prix.
But the moment everyone remembers his real breakthrough, that was in the Marussia, wasn't it?
At Monaco, yeah. That tiny team, Marussia. He drove brilliantly, finished 9th, scored their first ever World Championship points. That was huge.
Must have been massive for them. And for him.
Absolutely. He was even named Autosport Rookie of the Year in 2013. He was proving he belonged. He was ready.
And he felt ready for that next big step, didn't he? Towards Ferrari.
He did. And he wasn't quiet about it. There was lots of talk about Fernando Alonso maybe leaving Ferrari around then. And just 3 days, literally 3 days before the accident in Japan.
Yeah.
Bianchi stated publicly he felt ready, felt he had the experience to make that jump to Ferrari. It just highlights how close he was, what potential was right there.
Such a talent on the cusp, which makes turning to that day even harder. October 5th, 2014, Suzuka, Japan.
A notoriously challenging track, even on a good day.
And this wasn't a good day. Conditions were awful, heavy rain, a typhoon looming nearby.
And dusk approaching. So failing light on top of everything else.
What does that combination do in an F1 context? It sounds like a nightmare scenario.
It really is. Heavy rain means aquaplaning risk, massively reduced grip, terrible visibility. Suzuka has high-speed corners.
Like the S-curve, spoon
Oh,
curve?
yeah, exactly. They become incredibly treacherous in the wet. Add the dimming light, and drivers are wrestling these incredibly powerful machines with compromised control, and they can barely see. It's asking for trouble.
And the race itself, reflected that danger from the start.
Yeah, it began behind the safety car for 2 laps because the rain was so bad. Then it got red flagged completely for a while.
Stopped the race entirely.
Yes. They eventually restarted, but the track was still just soaked, really, really slippery. The conditions hadn't improved much at all.
An incredibly dangerous backdrop for what happened next.
Indeed. Lap 43. The S-curves again. Adrian Sutil, driving for Sauber. He aquaplaned. Lost control right at the Dunlop curve, sort of, turn 7. There was water running across the track there, apparently. Hit the barriers.
Was he okay?
Thankfully, yes, Sutil was unharmed. But his car was stuck, needed recovery.
Okay, so standard procedure kicks in.
Yeah.
Recovery vehicle gets sent out. A snatch tractor, right?
Correct. A mobile crane, essentially. Marshals are there, too. And critically, double-waved yellow flags are deployed at that section of the track.
Let's just remind ourselves, double-waved yellows. What does that signal mean exactly?
It's the highest level of warning before a full red flag or safety car. It means there's a major hazard on or very near the track.
So drivers have to.
They must slow down significantly, substantially, be ready to change direction, even stop if necessary, and absolutely no overtaking. It's a clear, non-negotiable instruction. Extreme danger ahead, reduce speed drastically.
Okay. So Sutil crashes, recovery starts, double yellows are out. Bianchi comes around on the next lap.
Yes, he'd been shown the flags. He knew there was an incident ahead.
But the investigation found, there's the crucial part, he didn't slow down enough.
That was the finding, yes. The FIA report stated he did not slow down sufficiently for the conditions and the double-waved yellow flags.
And then?
He encountered the same patch of water that caught Sutil out, lost rear grip. He tried to correct it.
Overcorrected.
Overcorrected, yes. And the car veered off the track, directly towards where the recovery tractor was working on Sutil's car.
Oh, no.
At that point, given the speed and the lack of control, a collision was almost inevitable.
And wasn't there a technical issue as well, something that made it even worse?
Yes, this is a really complex but vital point. While the car was off track for about 2 seconds, Bianchi was braking, which locked the front wheels, so no steering.
Right.
But he was also applying the throttle simultaneously. Now, there's a safety system, a fail-safe algorithm. It's supposed to detect that conflict, brake, and throttle at the same time and cut the engine power.
To prevent accelerating into danger.
Precisely. But, and this is the key detail, the Marussia team's brake-by-wire system had an incompatibility with that specific FIA fail-safe logic.
So the fail-safe didn't work.
It didn't activate. The engine didn't cut out. The FIA report actually suggested that if he had slowed more appropriately, hadn't overcorrected so sharply, and crucially, if he'd lifted off the throttle, or if the fail-safe had worked, the outcome might have been very different. Less severe, perhaps avoidable.
That incompatibility, that's just heartbreaking.
It's a devastating detail in the chain of events.
So the impact, it was directly with the recovery vehicle.
Yes. His Marussia hit the rear of the 6.5-ton tractor. Minimal loss of speed before impact. The forces involved were measured at an astonishing 254 G.
254 G. Can you even put that into perspective?
It's almost impossible to truly grasp. Fighter pilots might pull 9 G, maybe 10 G briefly. Astronauts during launch, maybe 3 or 4 G. 254 times the force of gravity. It's immense, catastrophic deceleration. The human brain just isn't designed to withstand that kind of instantaneous shock.
The damage must have been horrific.
Immediate and devastating. The car's chassis was heavily damaged. The roll hoop, the structure above the driver's head, and the airbox behind it were torn off completely.
Okay.
His helmet took a significant impact. This led to massive head deceleration, massive angular acceleration,
Wow.
causing what's known as a diffuse axonal injury, a very severe traumatic brain injury.
He was unconscious at the scene.
Yes, unconscious, unresponsive. And then, adding to the crisis, the weather was too bad for helicopter evacuation.
So they had to go by road.
Yeah, a 32-minute ambulance journey under police escort to the hospital in Yokkaichi, every minute critical in these situations.
Just awful.
Yeah.
What was the initial medical assessment?
Critical condition on arrival. He needed emergency surgery about 3 hours to relieve a subdural hematoma bleeding on the brain. Afterwards, the FIA's medical delegate described his condition as critical but stable.
But that specific injury, diffuse axonal injury, DAI, that's particularly bad, isn't it?
Extremely serious. It involves widespread tearing of the brain's nerve fibers caused by that rapid movement, the shearing forces. Survival rates are low. And for those who do survive, the likelihood of remaining unconscious or facing severe lifelong disabilities is very high. The outlook was incredibly grim right from the start.
His father called the situation desperate, just unimaginable pain for the family.
Absolutely. Though his father did mention finding a sliver of hope, looking at Michael Schumacher's recovery from his skiing accident coma around that time, Schumacher was actually Bianchi's childhood hero.
Wow, small world.
Bianchi remained critical, needing a ventilator for months. Then, in November 2014, some slight progress. He came out of the induced coma, started breathing on his own.
That must have felt like a breakthrough.
A small step, yeah. It allowed him to be transferred back to a hospital in France, closer to his family, so they could keep that constant vigil.
But ultimately,
Ultimately, despite that small sign, the damage was too severe. Jules Bianchi passed away on July 17th, 2015. He was just 25 years old.
the first F1 driver to die from injuries sustained in a race since Ayrton Senna in 1994. A truly dark day for the sport.
It really was. As a mark of respect, Formula One retired his car number 17. It won't be used again.
And his personal impact, it lives on too, doesn't it? Thinking about Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, that's a really touching connection. Bianchi was Leclerc's godfather, and Leclerc has said very openly that Bianchi basically saved his racing career.
How so?
Helped find funding for his karting when Leclerc's own family was struggling to afford it. It shows the kind of person Bianchi was beyond the cockpit. His influence is still felt.
A huge loss on so many levels. But as we said, his death became this unavoidable catalyst for change.
Absolutely. The FIA launched an immediate, thorough investigation. Their report identified those contributing factors we discussed. The track conditions, the speed, the recovery vehicle's position, that fail-safe issue.
But the family felt there were still unanswered questions.
Yes. They announced they intended to pursue legal action against the FIA, the Marussia team, even Bernie Ecclestone. They felt the accident was avoidable. That desire for accountability is completely understandable.
And did that lead anywhere publicly?
It seems likely it was settled privately, but it underscored the depth of their conviction that more could and should have been done.
The sport itself, though, did react quickly with rule changes.
It did. For the very next season, 2015, a new rule came in. No race could start less than 4 hours before sunset or dusk, unless it was an official night race.
Directly addressing the failing light at Suzuka.
Exactly. It affected the start times for several Grand Prix. A direct, practical response.
But the bigger, more systemic changes were the virtual safety car and the halo.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. The VSC is arguably the most direct consequence of Bianchi's accident.
Explain how that works again and why it's so relevant here.
Before the VSC, under yellow flags, drivers slowed, but maybe not consistently or enough. The relative speeds could still be dangerous near an incident. The VSC imposes a mandatory, significantly reduced delta lap time on all drivers when activated.
So everyone slows down by a set amount, uniformly.
Exactly. It neutralizes the situation, drastically reducing speeds in the specific danger zone, preventing cars from arriving at high speed where marshals or vehicles might be, which is precisely what happened to Bianchi. It takes the guesswork out of slowing down under yellows.
A huge step. And then came the halo, that cockpit protection device. Caused quite a stir visually when it arrived in 2018.
Oh, it was controversial. Aesthetically, a lot of people disliked it. But its purpose was clear. Shield the driver's head. And despite the initial grumbles,
It proved its worth pretty quickly.
dramatically so, there's no question the halo has saved lives. Not just in F1, but in F2, F3. Multiple instances where it's prevented serious injury or worse.
The Romain Grosjean crash in Bahrain 2020. That's the one everyone points to.
The most graphic example, definitely. Car splits in half, massive fire. He walks away with burns, but alive. And he said it himself, didn't he?
Jules Bianchi saved my life. What an idiot I was for questioning the halo.
Such a powerful statement, and Bianchi's mother even acknowledged it later. It felt like a direct validation of the safety drive Bianchi's accident triggered.
It seems like a clear line. Tragedy leads to innovation. Innovation saves lives.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a twist here, isn't there? A really difficult paradox.
There is, and it's crucial to understand this nuance. The FIA's own analysis concluded that the halo, as it's designed,
Yeah.
probably would not have saved Jules Bianchi's life in his specific accident.
Wait, really? The device practically born from his accident wouldn't have helped him. Why?
It comes down to the very specific, brutal nature of his impact. Firstly, the forces were largely lateral, a sort of glancing, shearing blow against the massive tractor. The halo is primarily designed for frontal impacts or deflecting debris from above. It might not have held up structurally against that kind of side load.
Okay, the angle of impact. What else?
Remember, his roll hoop and airbox were completely sheared off. Those are key structural parts of the car's safety cell. Their failure compromised the entire structure the halo would attach to.
Right, the integrity was already gone.
But the most critical factor is likely the type of injury. Bianchi suffered that diffuse axonal injury from the incredibly rapid deceleration. His brain essentially impacted the inside of his skull due to the sudden stop. The halo prevents objects hitting the head.
But it can't stop the deceleration itself.
Exactly. Given the massive G-forces involved in hitting that slow-moving but incredibly heavy tractor, even with a halo, the internal brain trauma from the sudden deceleration might well have been just as severe, leading to the same tragic outcome. The physics of that specific impact were unique and devastating.
So connecting these dots, the halo wouldn't have saved Bianchi. But his accident was the catalyst that pushed his development and implementation forward.
Precisely. It's a difficult thing to reconcile, but yes. His tragedy exposed vulnerabilities and dramatically accelerated the push for better head protection. The halo exists and saves lives now, largely because of the urgent questions raised by what happened to Jules.
So his legacy is perhaps even more profound in that sense.
Right.
It wasn't just about preventing his accident from happening again, but about pushing safety forward for everyone, even if that specific solution wouldn't have altered his fate.
That's a very good way to put it. It highlights that safety isn't static. You learn from tragedies, you innovate, you try to anticipate the next risk. The VSC, the halo, the start time rules, they all stem from that awful day in Suzuka.
It's a stark reminder. Jules Bianchi's career, full of such promise, was cut tragically short. A rising star lost far too soon.
But his memory, and perhaps more tangibly, the lessons learned from that terrible accident, they genuinely have changed Formula One forever. It is a safer sport today because of him.
Absolutely. It's a testament, albeit a painful one, that even from the darkest moments, real life-saving progress can emerge.
And it shows that constant evolution of safety, doesn't it? Particularly in these high-risk, high-speed environments. Innovation driven by necessity, sometimes by tragedy, pushing boundaries, forcing us to rethink what's possible, what's acceptable risk.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where else do we see these kinds of hard-won safety leaps? In aviation, maybe? Medicine, even things we take for granted every day. Often those advancements come at a profound human cost. Something to reflect on.
Definitely something to consider.
Thank you for joining us on this Deep Dive.